Coming up on our newscast tonight. Seoul and Pyongyang each began demolishing demilitarized zone guard posts after withdrawing troops and firearms from dozens of them. Meanwhile, the land ministry officials held another meeting of the Joint Roads Research Group and decided to hold further discussions on road inspections. South Korea is sending 200 tons of tangerines up north. They are flown across the border as a return gift with no strings attached for the pine mushroom Seoul received during the last Inter-Korean summit. One of China's biggest one-day online shopping event has come and gone. The biggest Korean beneficiaries of this Double 11's Day are cosmetic product manufacturers, with some brands seeing a whopping 80% sales jump from this day last year. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. The two Koreas begin work on demolishing guard posts along their heavily fortified military border, leaving only one on each side to be preserved for historic value. All the GPs will be gone before the month is up. Park Ji-won starts us off with the steps taken towards establishing peace on the peninsula.
From this Monday, the two Koreas began demolishing 10 guard posts, each on their sides of DMZ. According to South Korea's Defense Ministry, the two sides completed the withdrawal of firearms and troops from the guard posts on Sunday. The South Korean Army says demolition work is simultaneously underway at 10 guard posts on the South Korean side of the DMZ, but explosives won't be used due to the safety of workers and ecological preservation in the area. Army Chief of Staff Kim Young-woo inspected one of the 10 demolition sites Monday morning. A military source told Arirang News that North Korea has also been observed demolishing its guard post this Monday. The two Koreas are planning to complete the removal of the guard post by the end of the month. However, one out of the previously agreed 11 guard posts on each side will be preserved for historic and symbolic values. South Korea chose a guard post located close to the EC, which was built in 1953, right after the signing of the Armistice Agreement. The guard post has a scenic view and could be used as a tourist spot later. North Korea chose a guard post located in the eastern part of the DMZ, only some 350 meters from a South Korean guard post in the region. The other 10 guard posts, all located within 1 kilometer of the military demarcation line, will be removed by the end of November. Once the removal is done, the two Koreas are planning to conduct joint inspections on the demolitions sometime next month. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
North Korea has finished removing landmines from the joint security area. Speaking in front of lawmakers on Monday, South Korea's defense chief said Pyongyang notified his ministry of removal of a total of 636 mines. Chung Kyung-do pointed out that when Seoul inspected its part of the JSA, no mines were found there. He added all armed personnel and weapons have been withdrawn as well. The two Koreas completed a joint project to get rid of all landmines from Panmunjom last month, in accordance with the comprehensive military agreement signed in September. Military officials from the two Koreas and the UN command held working-level talks today about the use of surveillance equipment in the joint security area. The meeting started at 10 a.m. local time at the Freedom House on the South Korean side of the border village of Panmunjom. The three sides are expected to cover the arrangements for surveillance at the JSA and ways to share information. After the meeting, they will be inspecting the site together until Tuesday to check where these equipments could be installed and what kind of equipment have been used. The two sides held a second meeting of their Joint Roads Research Group at the liaison office just north of the border, but the session concluded with no big progress. The delegations touched on road inspections in general and agreed to discuss the matter further later on. Oh Jung-hee gets us up to speed with the developments.
Officials from South and North Korea met on Monday to discuss the schedule for road inspections, but the meeting ended with no date set. 5-member delegations from both sides, each led by a senior official from their respective land ministries, went north of the border to the liaison office for the second meeting of the Joint Roads Research Group. It was initially announced that they would discuss the schedule for inspecting roads along the east coast. But according to Seoul's Unification Ministry, the delegations focused rather on which sections of road on both the west and east coast should be checked and how that should be done. In the end, they decided to continue the discussion later. The two Koreas already inspected roads on the west coast 3 months ago. In mid-August, the group had their first meeting, and there they agreed to inspect roads between the North Korean cities of Kaesong and Pyongyang for a week, which happened as planned. But on Monday, instead of deciding on new inspections, they revisited the results of the previous ones and promised to review those. The two Koreas are getting closer to the deadline they've set for breaking ground on work to connect and modernize their railways and roads. At the high-level talks last month, they penciled in a ceremony for late this month or early December. But there has been skepticism about whether they'll be able to keep making progress on railways and roads. There have been no inspections of railways since August because of concerns they might violate sanctions. In late August, Seoul wanted to send a research team to the north for more inspections, but that was not approved by UN command. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
The two Koreas are technically still at war, so disarming the joint security area at the DMZ is a step forward in the process of easing military tensions. Knowing how intense the atmosphere has been at the JSA for decades, international media outlets are keeping close tabs on the disarmament, calling it a pathway to peace. Park Hee-jun provides a view from the outside looking in.
Firearms and military posts have been removed from the heavily fortified joint security area in the DMZ, where armed soldiers from the two sides once stared each other down. It was done to fulfill the agreements made by President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in the Pyongyang Joint Declaration signed in September. The step toward establishing a lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula is considered miraculous not only in Korea, but also around the world. At the beginning of the process, CNN reported that the two Koreas began demilitarizing one of the most dangerous borders on the planet, once called the scariest place on Earth by former U.S. President Bill Clinton. China's CGTN referred to the JSA as the world's most heavily fortified frontier and the very last real vestige of the Cold War. Because of the importance of the JSA's transformation, the move has been dubbed a big symbolic step, an unprecedented step, and an iconic moment amid the peace drive on the Korean Peninsula. Once the disarmament process is complete, the JSA will soon be reopened to tourists. Both Koreans and foreigners will be able to cross the military demarcation line freely from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and recreate the historic moment when the leaders of the two Koreas crossed the line together at the Inter-Korean Summit back in April, which is expected to lead to some extraordinary selfies and hashtags. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
Seoul is sending tangerines to North Korea. In case some are wondering if the gesture violates international sanctions, the nation's top office assures it doesn't, as the fruits from Jeju are a return gift for the pine mushrooms received during the summit in September. Hwang Ho-jun explains further.
200 tons of Jeju delights, 20,000 boxes, 10 kilograms of tangerines in each, divvied up into 4 military cargo planes and sent to North Korea in a total of 4 shipments until Monday. South Korea's presidential office of Cheongwade says they are a return present from the top office to North Korea after the North sent 2 tons of songi, or pine mushrooms, to Seoul in September following the third summit between President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, which was held in Pyongyang. The officials tasked with overseeing the tangy delivery are Vice Unification Minister Chun Hae-sung and Presidential Secretary for Unification Policy Seo Ho. The Blue House spokesperson said Sunday that tangerines were chosen because not only are they in season right now, but also because tangerines are rare in North Korea. He said the Blue House decided on such a huge amount as it wanted as many North Koreans as possible to taste them. This is the biggest shipment of South Korean goods to North Korea since 2010, which is when inter-Korean relations went spiraling down following North Korea's attack on a South Korean warship in March that year, killing 46 sailors. Asked whether the shipment breaches international sanctions on North Korea, the Blue House asserted it does not, as the tangerines are merely a reciprocal gift with no strings attached. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
A 7-member high-level delegation from Pyongyang will cross the border for a 4-day visit to the south starting Wednesday. Seoul's Unification Ministry approved the visit by the members of the North Korea Asia-Pacific Peace Committee. Their trip is primarily to attend an international conference hosted by a South Korean organization in Gyeonggi-do Province, where participants from the two Koreas and Japan discussed the forced mobilization of Koreans during Japan's colonial rule. The delegation is drawing attention because it includes Kim Sung-hae and Lee Jong-hyuk. They've been involved in Pyongyang-Washington negotiations and inter-Korean discussions, respectively. While some anticipate the duo's trip could lead to meetings with the Seoul government, the Unification Ministry assures there are no such plans as of now, as their visit is of a civic nature. Last month, Seoul Supreme Court ruled that a Japanese steelmaker has to compensate 4 Koreans forced to work for it without pay during World War II. Today, attorneys for the victims went to Tokyo headquarters of Nippon Steel and Sumitomo Metal Corporation to discuss how it will pay the victims, but they weren't allowed in. The team, along with some South Korean and Japanese activists, brought a request for the company to pay immediately, but they were unable to talk to any of its employees. Security blocked them from going up to the offices. They waited for about half an hour, but eventually had to leave. Since the firm refused to discuss the matter, the attorney said they will go ahead and seek the confiscation of its property in South Korea as planned. A South Korean man abducted by an unknown group in Libya in early July has been confirmed to be safe. An official at Seoul's Foreign Affairs Ministry told reporters on Monday that the Libyan government confirmed that the man is healthy and safely detained in the southern part of Libya. The official did not elaborate on how this was confirmed, as the rescue efforts are still underway. But he said the ministry has been closely coordinating with the Libyan government to rescue the South Korean national. Amid the ongoing budget screening at the National Assembly, the floor leaders of Korea's 3 negotiating bodies clashed once again, this time over President Moon Jae-in's replacement of his finance minister and chief policy advisor. Kim Mo-kyun has the latest from Parliament.
The main talking point of the regular meeting on Monday was President Moon Jae-in's decision to replace his finance minister and his chief policy advisor last week. Kim Sung-tae, the floor leader of the main opposition Liberty Korea party, criticized the government for making an abrupt change at an important period when the parliament is reviewing next year's budget. He said that replacing the 2 economic chiefs is an evasion of their responsibility for the budget proposal. In response to this, ruling party floor leader Hong Young-pyo claimed that the replacement came at the request of the opposition parties, adding that former finance minister Kim Dong-yeon will faithfully participate in the budget screening until his successor Hong Nam-gi gets confirmed. The floor leaders also touched upon the need for the revision of the parliament's confirmation hearing system. The ruling party called for a systematic reform, saying the questioning under the current system is too harsh on the candidates, whereas the opposition want to see the system changed so that nominees require parliamentary approval in order to be appointed. Currently, the president can appoint a nominee even if the National Assembly fails to approve a candidate during a confirmation hearing. National Assembly Speaker Moon Hee-sang said that rival parties must put themselves in each other's shoes to come up with wise improvements to the current parliamentary confirmation system. Meanwhile, the floor leaders agreed to expedite the passage of the Yoon Chang-ho Act, a bill aimed at toughening the punishment for drunk driving. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
The National Assembly's Budget Committee is holding its final questioning session today over the government's spending plan for 2019. The conservative opposition is seeking massive cuts, especially on the amount allocated to create public sector jobs and inter-Korean projects. But the ruling party is pressing for all or some $420 billion to be passed in order to revitalize the economy as well as foster peace on the peninsula. Starting Thursday, a subcommittee will get down to business on cutting or hiking specific parts of the budget. Several of the Assembly's standing committees are carrying out reviews in their respective areas. The nation's Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy vows to support local firms by cutting red tape in a meeting with business leaders, including the chairman of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry and top executives from companies like Samsung Electronics and Hyundai Group. Song Yun-mo shared their concerns on the need to boost the nation's struggling manufacturing industries like steel, autos, and shipbuilding. He promised to ease regulations in order to help boost innovation and look into measures to help increase flexibility in the labor market. Seoul's auto sector, which endured restructuring, may have rebounded slightly from a prolonged slump, mainly thanks to an increase of operation days last month. Data released by the Trade Ministry shows industrial output increased by 36% from the same period last year, notching a monthly record high of around 381.6 thousand units in October. Auto exports, meanwhile, climbed by more than 32% on year, with especially strong numbers in markets of North America and Europe. Near 24% jump when it comes to domestic consumption during the same period, on the back of increased sales of hydrogen-run vehicles, EVs, and hybrids. Exports of auto components also expanded by nearly 37%. Nothing comes close to the massive purchasing power and determination of Chinese shoppers. These attributes are demonstrated even more clearly on Singles' Day. During this year's 24-hour shopping rush, more sale records were broken. According to our Oh Soo-young, South Korean beauty products were flying off the digital shelves.
It took less than 2 minutes for Chinese shoppers to spend $1 billion after the clock struck midnight on Sunday, marking the start of the country's massive annual spending event known as Singles' Day. According to local e-commerce giant Alibaba, shoppers were faster and more determined than ever to grab a bargain on its online bazaars. Sales hit $10 billion just an hour into the shopping frenzy. That's 5 minutes and 21 seconds faster than last year and 10 minutes faster than 2015. It seems consumers had a huge appetite for digital products, with Apple, Xiaomi and Dyson topping sales during the first hour. The best-selling products from overseas came from Japan, the United States and South Korea. Among South Korean products, facial masks, perfumes and other cosmetics products were said to have been the most popular. Compared to the year before, Korean beauty brands LG Household and Healthcare and Innisfree saw sales figures jump around 50% and 80% respectively, and Amora Pacific sold 18,000 units of beauty products in the first 15 minutes of the sale. Korean food and fashion brands also saw their products flying off the virtual shelves. Dongsim, which produces instant noodles or ramyeon, says Sunday sales reached $720,000 on Alibaba's Tmall, 10 times their usual level, while Eland Group sold 20,000 down jackets in an hour and more than 100,000 sweatshirts throughout the day. Alibaba says over the 24-hour period, orders exceeded 1 billion shipments, worth some $30.8 billion. That marks a 27% increase from 2017. Despite the record-breaking figure, the margin of growth has fallen, perhaps reflecting concerns that consumer sentiment is dwindling in the world's second-largest economy, amid trade tensions with the United States. Still, the sheer scope of the shopping event is bigger than the transaction volume of Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined. This year marked the 10th anniversary of the Singles' Day festival, also known as Double 11's Day, as it falls on November 11th. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The all-important nationwide college entrance exam is just 3 days away, which is why the Seoul Metropolitan Government will increase public transportation in the city on Thursday to support test takers. On the day of the exam, 28 extra subway trains in Seoul will operate during the morning rush hour, which will be extended by 2 hours from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Buses and taxis will run more frequently and vehicles will be on standby to give free rides to students. During the exam, traffic will be controlled around test sites and flights will be prohibited for about 30 minutes in the afternoon to minimize disturbance. Starting today, exam papers and answer sheets will be delivered to 86 testing districts nationwide, ready to be distributed to 1,190 test sites on test day. Korea has been introducing the uniqueness of its language to people from around the world at an international language fair in London. The Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism and the Sejong Institute provided a variety of educational materials and experience events related to Korean alphabet Hangul from Friday to Sunday at the Language Show 2018. Some 5,000 people visited the Hangul exhibition booth and enjoyed learning and experiencing Korean through online applications, calligraphy, and a class useful for traveling to Korea. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the London International Language Fair. More than 60 countries participated at this year's event. The Lee Cup International Yacht Race was held off the nation's southern coast. The event is held to promote sports exchanges and honor the legendary Korean naval commander. Yoon Jung-min takes us closer to the action.
Some 600 sailors from 10 Asian countries were in South Korea's southern city of Tongyeong last week for the 12th Lee Cup International Yacht Race. 85 boats took part in the event between November 7th and November 11th. It is one of the 3 biggest yachting competitions in Asia following the China Cup and Thailand's King's Cup. South Korean boat Fikira came in first place, followed by Russian boat First and another South Korean boat Podium.
I'm very happy to have won this race for the second time following last year's championship. Our team crew did really well and put in a lot of effort. We were extra careful this round because the wind was rather light.
I came here to have a beautiful experience in Tongyeong, and this area of Korea is gorgeous. So I think it's a great opportunity not only to see more of Korea, but to have a chance to sail with the Korean racers and sail with the international team.
The race is named after one of Korea's historical figures from the Joseon dynasty, Admiral Lee Sun-shin. Lee won numerous battles against the Japanese Navy during the Imjin War from 1592 to 1598. The yacht races took place in 3 areas near the site of the Battle of Hansan, one of Admiral Lee's famous victories. The organizers said this year's competition would provide an opportunity to encourage international sports exchanges as well as promoting the spirit of Lee Sun-shin. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Elsewhere around the world, the wildfires in California that have killed dozens and have caused thousands to evacuate could grow even bigger. The U.S. Fire Department is concerned the blaze could continue for weeks. For details, we turn to our Hong Yu.
Campfire, the most destructive wildfire in California's history, shows no sign of abating, with strong dry winds making the weather optimal for the Northern California fire to spread for at least another day. The wildfire, which started on November 8th, has killed more than 30 people, and with more than 200 others missing, the number of casualties is likely to increase. Most victims were found near Paradise, California. More than 300,000 people have been forced from their homes statewide.
I think it's burned. But because it's neighbors' houses, I see it's already started to burn.
As well as Campfire, there are 2 other wildfires that have broken out in Southern California. The Hill Fire and the Woolsey Fire have destroyed 179 structures and are threatening 57,000 more.
The only thing that we're not concerned about is where it hit the ocean. So other than that, we're extremely concerned. We've asked our citizens to evacuate. We have all available firefighters out there on all perimeters and all unburned areas of this fire trying to protect the structures and put the fire out.
The return of powerful winds is impeding firefighters from containing the fires, especially the Woolsey Fire in Southern California. These winds are known as the Devil's Wind for giving life to wildfires of a tremendous scale. Currently, about 3,000 firefighters are battling the blazes. The U.S. Fire Department said it will take more than 3 weeks to fully contain the 3 fires. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
Time now for the weather updates. We turn to our Lee Jian, who is filling in for Michelle Bach at the Weather Center. Jian, the weather usually gets quite cold around college entrance exam day, but I hear that's not the case this year.
Right, Daniel. Well, if you remember, last year, the temperature on the test day was nearly -3 degrees Celsius here in the capital, but it's going to be a lot milder, thankfully, and no precipitation is in the forecast for most areas this Thursday. Now, the nation has been breathing in decent air since this afternoon, but tomorrow some western regions will have a dusty Tuesday. Meanwhile, regions in the east will see light rain during the day, but there's sunny weather for the rest of the country with wide temperature differences of over 10 degrees Celsius between highs and lows. So Tuesday morning will be a chilly one with Seoul and Daejeon beginning the day at 4 degrees Celsius. And the daytime highs will be in the mid-teens, ranging between 14 and 16 degrees. So be sure to dress accordingly. That's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
That's all we could pack into tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thanks for staying with us.